So, a very good morning, students. Once again, I welcome you all for the online lecture series on remote sensing and GIS. So, we were basically talking about the geographic information system, and this will be your part two of the geographic information system. So, we have covered about the remote sensing in previous 17 lectures, and we will be covering the other parts, that is about the geographic information system in part 1, part 2, part 3, and respectively. So in previous lecture we have gone through the various topics. Let us have a recap. We have gone through the definition. About after the definition we have also brief detail about the difference between data versus information, then how to transform data to information, then about the information system, then digital information system, then about the geographic information system, its applications, data type, raster data, vector data, then triangulated irregular network, then data representation, attributes, topology, typical structure of GIS, and integration of information. We have also seen the detailed application of GIS. Now we have to cover this topic, that is spatial data analysis. So what type of relationship exists between the geographic features and how do we express them? That we can do with this spatial data analysis. To understand the spatial relationship and patterns, we need to perform this spatial data analysis to understand our world mapping, where things are, how they relate, what it all means, and what action to take. So everything can be done by the spatial analysis of geographic patterns, finding optimum routes, site selection, and advanced predictive modeling. With this spatial data analysis, you can do many more things. So first one is, let us go and let us understand what things we can do. So first one is understanding where. So where is my office located? Nowadays, it is very easy with the Google Earth or Google Map. You can simply write the name or maybe latitude or longitude. It will tell you where exactly it is with respect to this whole world. Where are my delivery trucks? Are you are so you can just place a GPS locator in your truck, and then you can monitor all the time how they are moving, when they are stopping, and how much time they are taking to reach a particular position. Understanding where is about uh, understanding where is about putting the entire world in context, measuring shape, size, and distribution. How long is the river? How tall is the building? So those things you can easily do with this GIS. Determining how places are related, which river are within 10 miles of a pipeline, have other crimes occurred at this location, finding the best location and path, the best route to travel, the best corridor to build a pipeline, or the best location to site a new store. So nowadays it is very common, whenever we want to reach a place, we type the name of that place of or the latitude, longitude of that place in Google Map, and then we see how many routes we can follow and which is the shortest one, which is having more traffic or less traffic. So that we always use in our day-to-day life, detecting and qualifying the pattern where our clusters of high expenditure and on electronic goods, where are the hot spots of the cancer death, making predictions, how will a forest fire spread based on the vegetation and wind, how will store the size and travel distance attract or detract customers. So those things you can easily do with GIS. So there are different functions which I want to highlight, which you can always perform using any GIS software, or you can do it but your own by using a programming language, right? So let us see what function we commonly use in remote sensing and GIS. So let us assume these are the vector points, and buffer means you want to create a buffer from a center of a place. So from this point, I wanted to create 1 meter buffer. So this is the output. So here you have vector points, and you can see how they look like after putting the vector layer. So it is very easy when you are dealing with the GIS. And the next one is line. So suppose this is a river, right? हमारे पास एक river है, right? And you want to create a buffer so all the buildings or all a settlement should be away from that. Should you decide to keep maybe 10 kilometers? So using that, you can create this buffer and you can instruct the people not to build houses in this place. Next is polygon. So here in the polygon, also you can create a buffer. So this is your buffer depending upon your requirement. So such buffer you can always create, and it will be very easy when you are working with GIS. Now the next one is spatial overlay function. So how to understand this one? So A disjoins B, A contains B, A overlaps B, A is inside the B, A touches the B, A covers B, A equals B, and A is almost to cover B. So these kind of function you can always define in GIS environment. Now let us see what are the utility or the spatial overlay function in our remote sensing application. So when you are involved in some project where you want to use this remote sensing data, how exactly this GIS is playing a role. So let us assume you have derived a map by using some classification technique, some data, and you have this map output. ठीक है, तो यहाँ समझेंगे. Now let us assume you have derived the map. You have derived the map by using some classification technique, some data. Okay, and you have this map output map. Do not see this input. ठीक है, input मत देखो. This is the input for this erase function. But when you are dealing with this classified map, which has been derived from the satellite data, but how somehow you feel that this is particular area is not relevant, or maybe a particular class is not relevant to you or in your project, then how do you remove that class from your output? So then we have to define a erase feature, and then you can get this kind of output. So assuming a problem where you have generated the land use, land cover, and you do not want a class for water, so then what you will do, you will digitize all the water boundaries in GIS, and then you will create that as a erase feature or maybe a mask, and then you will mask out this original image. That means you classified the image, and then you will get your output without that class. So this kind of application you can always think of in remote sensing and GIS. Now next one is identify the overlap. So used to update the existing database with additional information. As I told you in GIS, we always talk about the spatial data. And in case if you are having land use, land cover map, and every time you want to update your map as per the change in the land use, land cover, then how do you update? Maybe from this classified map, you found that only these two classes are basically extra. So in that case, what will happen? You will run this identify overlap, and you will find that all the additional feature boundaries are coming on this particular input map image. So this can be done by using the identify function. Now the next one is intersect overlay. So used to extract information from the database. So here the intersect means it will give you only for that layer you can see. So here you can think of one application. You have a land use, land cover map from an agency, maybe let us say from NRSC. You have purchased that land use, land cover map, and then you want to only perform some analysis for your study area that may be only 1 by 1 kilometer. But you, whatever you have purchased, it may be 1000 by 1000 kilometers. So 1 by 1 kilometer, you will make a mask, this intersect feature, and then you will run this and you will get only the classified or the land use, land cover map for this particular area. उसके बाद जो हमारे पास दूसरा है, the next function is union overlay. Here it is used to update the existing database with the additional information. So aerial extent includes both of them. So here you can see this is the input and this is basically your another layer. So here what you want to do, you want to union them. So then output will have these features plus the original feature, right? So both are updated. So this kind of application you can think of when you are using or working in GIS. And the next one is update overlay. So used to update and generalize the existing feature or database with additional information. And here the area may also get changed. Why? Because you are going to update. So here this is your original image and these features are basically extra. So you want to update the original map with this one. So here the output will have extra features apart from this boundary, whatever it was, right? So here the features are also updated and the area is also changed. So it depends, like if you are both the layers are of same area, then you may not have any aerial extent change. But if they are different, then this condition may arise. After that, इसके बाद जो हमारे पास next चीज है वो will cover in the next slide. So we'll cover about the spatial functions interpolation. So before going to spatial function interpolation, I will just give you a brief recap. Let us go quickly through what I have covered in my previous lecture. So I started my lecture with the definition of GIS, right? So I hope you remember that topics which I have covered to you in the previous lecture. So I am just going to highlight a few of the very important aspects of that. So here GIS allows to integrate many data in a single map, which enable to visualize the question, analyze and interpret the data, to understand the relationship patterns and trends more efficiently. So this is the beauty of GIS, where you can integrate many or a number of data sets together, or you can run a query that will give you some answers which are hidden in those data sets, right? So so we started with data, and then what is the difference between data and information? We have also gone through what is the difference between data and information. So then information system, then we have gone through the digital information system. I hope you all remember these figures. So here basically this is very good information of an information system, where you can easily find out the information hidden in this telephone directory by just identifying the first letter of that word, right? And this is how we are going to assess that we are going to get our answers by sending a query to this information system, and this information system will provide you an answer, right? And this is one example of the digital information system, where you can find the answers available to you through different modes or different places. So here you are not going to manage this. You are not managing this. You are not managing this. You are so data has been captured and analyzed by others, but that is available to you through an information system. So all these data sets are available to you in digital format. So that is how this digital system or digital information system is in this picture. Now, the next component which I have highlighted in my previous lecture was geographical information system component, right? Geographical information system component. So what are the different components we actually see in a GIS? So first one is computer hardware, second is software, third is geographic data or the spatial data, and the last one, but the most important part is to person who captures, store, update, manipulate, analyze, display these data set as a information. So it is important, very important to note that here, all these captures, store and update. Basically, this requires a group of people, not only one people. So depending upon the size of the data or the quality of the data or what kind of size of the data, quality of the data, and also what kind of data you are going to assess. There are many individuals or many organizations or many groups are involved in this one. So that is how this is geographical information system components are very important. So none of them are insignificant. All of them are significant, right? All of them are significant, and they are playing a critical role in this GIS data type, and that also I have covered in my previous lecture. So there are two different major types of data sets. First one is your raster data, then one was your vector data, right? So what are the different? Raster is basically your images, right? Images where you have grids, pixels or elements, whereas in vectors you have point, line and polygon. And there is a third type of data which is known as TIN, that is triangular irregular network, triangulated irregular network. So in this one, this is basically considered as a different category. The CIN is considered as a different category where we do not consider this CIN into either of the raster or vector. So this is the third category of the data type. Now this CIN is very important in generating the digital elevation model or maybe the parameters which you have collected or you wanted to interpolate. So this triangulated irregular network is very nice. And the next topic which I have covered was attributes. So all those data sets have covered this attribute. So all these data sets, raster, vector or TIN, they can have attribute table attached with the main file. Attribute table may look like this. Where do you have many other parameters apart from the FID, right? FID and ID, right? So here you can use this table to interpolate or to extract the information what you want. Now the next component was the topology. Okay, because when you're dealing with the vector data, topology plays a very critical role because it defines the rule or behavior, how these point, line and polygons are connected with each other, or how they say the geometry with each other, and what is the position and location of each individual line, point or polygon, whether they are inside or whether they are sharing the boundary or whether they are just overlapping each other. So those information can be stored when we have this topology, right? Our typical GIS structure was also discussed in previous lecture, where I have shown you a flow chart, right? Where I have shown you a flow chart, this one, like this in GIS. Basically, we start this flow by defining the problem. So first step will be define your problem, then define GIS criteria, which can help you to achieve this particular objective, right? And the third one will be import or build data, and that will be from different source. GIS analysis because you have already defined the criteria. So here you will perform the analysis, and at this stage you will receive your output or the result. Then you have to analyze them and you have to make a decision if it is for early warning system or any such application. So this was the flow which we have discussed in my previous lecture. I hope this is very clear and you can use this flow to define your problem. And then you can work with GIS and remote sensing. After that, I started explaining you the different spatial functions, which is for which can be done in GIS environment. So to contribute with that topic, let us start with the interpolation. So interpolation is a method. Okay, so interpolation is a method of approximating set of values distributed over a space. If some values of this set are known, interpolation can be used to estimate elevation, rainfall, temperature, chemical set dispersion, or other spatially based phenomena. So basically, here you have two values and you want to derive this particular point value. What will be the value at this particular location? Okay, so this is known as interpolation. Interpolation can be performed on the vector using a TIN surface model. I hope you remember the TIN, triangular related irregular network. So here basically this is in simple words what exactly we do in interpolation. So here you have A and B, and the value of A is 87, okay, and B is 129. And I want to calculate the value of C, and with this unknown, this is after the calculation. So how do we exactly know that this is the value of point C, and which C may not be at the center of this A and B? So what we will do? First, we need to divide it into different units. So here distance between A and B is 45 units. This you have to calculate. Then to find the value at an unknown point C at a distance of 20 units from A. Okay, so this is basically 20, and here you have 25. That means the distance is 45 between A and B at a distance of say 20 units from A. Value of C can be calculated like this. So this is very easy when you are having only 2 points and you want to calculate. So you just have to estimate the distance and divide the values into different segments, and then you can easily find out what will be the value of C. So this such operations can be easily done with GIS, where we have locations attached. Now here, this is another example. Just see the example. Okay. So this is the image. So let us say you have only one value here, one value here, and one value here, and you want to calculate for this particular location. Okay. So how you will do this? That similarly, like we have done in the previous slide. So you have this triangle. So A, B, C, and A and C is having a point D, which is at midpoint. So here it will be very easy. So D is equal to A plus C divided by 2. So just half of the A and C, right? These are very basic operations of interpolation. Now let us see what else we can do in interpolation. So spatial interpolation depends on two major factors. So first one is you need to have known points. Without that, you cannot do or you cannot perform interpolation. So sample points with known values in space, spatial interpolation scheme or type. So what scheme or type you are going to follow while performing this spatial interpolation? So here you have a spatial interpolation, or it can be done by global interpolation or local interpolation. So in local or global interpolation, what exactly we do? Let us see here. So in global interpolation, every known value is used to determine an unknown value. Whereas local interpolation, a set of known values are used to determine an unknown value. So this is the basic difference between the global and local interpolation. Spatial interpolation can be of two different types, right? So first one is deterministic and the second one is uh, stochastic. So in deterministic, basically no error assessment with determined unknown value, whereas in stochastic, error assessment with determined unknown value. So this is the basic difference between the stochastic and deterministic, and accordingly, you have to choose which method you want to perform or apply for this spatial interpolation. Now the next one is global interpolation technique. As I told you, we have two different techniques. Either you have to perform global or local interpolation technique. So let us start with the global interpolation technique. So here we have the first one, which is known as trend surface model. It uses a polynomial equation to approximate the points with known values, where you can use this polynomial equation and you can easily find out what will be the value of unknown points, right? So here the z is a function of x and y, b0, b1, b2 are the coefficients and can be obtained using known points in the equation. So I hope you have understood this part, because this is the basic of the fundamental polynomial equation. You can use here, you can increase the level of polynomial equation here, or the degree of polynomial equation here, so that you can achieve more accuracy, right? Now moving ahead, the trend surface models are computationally complex and inexact interpolation technique. So this is the continuation of this trend surface model. Now let us see what other method we can apply in the global method. So here we have a regression model. So regression, I hope you are familiar with regression. So because in math, we generally use this regression polynomial equation, right? So in general, it is used to examine the influence of one or more independent variable on dependent variable. And in interpolation, it relates dependent variable in a linear equation that interpolates and that can be used for the estimation. So that is the advantage when you are having this regression model as your interpolation technique. Now for the local interpolation technique, we have density estimation. So it measures the cell density in a raster by using a set of known points, and neighborhood is defined around each raster cell, and the number of points that fall within this total and divided by the area of the neighborhood. So again here you have to correlate with your satellite data where you had a pixel. So what it says, it's cell density in a raster by using a set of non-points. So the cell density means that what is the value which you are looking for, that density you have to estimate by using the known location or the known values. A neighborhood is defined around each raster cell, and the number of points that fall within is totalated and divided by the area of the neighborhood. So this is how you have to apply this density estimation. Now the next method is Thiessen polygon. So let us see about the Thiessen polygon. So Thiessen polygon is one of the popular methods in interpolation, but it is a little bit complex than the others. So let us see how exactly you can perform this. So it assigns interpolated values equal to the value found at the nearest sample location, right? Also called as nearest sample or nearest neighbor technique, because it is going to take the immediate neighbor value. So it is more accurate, relatively simple method where only one point is used right now. Let us see how exactly we perform this one. So let us see through an example. Just wait a second. So you have some set of points. So input point cover. So all these point values are known. Now what will we will do? We will connect all the nearest elements and we will make the triangle. So that will give you TIN, triangulated irregular network, and then we will identify the midpoint here and we will draw a perpendicular. So that will be bisected TIN, and you can see here for all the points we had this type, and where we had discreted and this bisected TIN is going to be these sides of your Thiessen polygon. Now what do you have to do? You have to extend them and you have to join them, right? So that will look like this. So here you can see this is the value for this particular polygon. This is the value for this particular polygon. So it is expected that your output or your result will be more accurate than other values or other methods. Why? Because it works on the nearest neighbors concept. Now the next is IDW. So IDW is inverse distance weighted method. Now slowly it is gaining its popularity because this is giving you more accurate data. It works on the condition that the estimated value of a point is affected more by a nearby known point. That those lying on the farther distance, here you can use this particular equation to calculate this inverse distance weighted. So where Zk is the estimated value, Zi is the value of known points, Di is the estimated distance of known points, and I is the number of points, and K is the known power. So basically, if you have 4 or 5, or let us say these points you have which you want to interpolate by using this inverse distance weighted method, then if I consider this and this particular point, these 2 points, and if I take the average, or if I take this divided and if I estimate the value of this particular location, this may give you good result. But what if these 2 points are connected and you are going to use these values to calculate the value of this particular location? So it may be wrong, or it another case, let us say this and this value are lying very far from each other, and there is one more value here. So if I say I want to calculate the value of this particular point, then if I use this relationship, or this relationship which once could give more or better results, so it is expected that the weightage of this particular point should be more on this particular location. Why? Because it is near to this position, right, or near to that place. So that is why we have started thinking toward this distance weightage. So as the distance is decreasing, the weightage will increase. As the distance is increasing, weightage will decrease. उसके बाद जो है, the next method is stringing. Okay, now it is geostatistical method of spatial interpolation. It uses a semi-variance or measuring for measuring spatially correlated components. It measures the distance between all possible pairs of sample points and model the spatial auto correlation for the particular surface. Basic stringing methods are simple stringing, ordinary stringing, universal stringing, and so on. You can search for this. Now we have the next method, which is also known as spline. Spline is one of the best method if you want to perform as smoothing effect on the spectral measurement. Hope you remember from hyperspectral remote sensing section. So this, because when you acquire a spectra, or whenever you take a spectra from the library, right? So the acquired spectra may have this kind of behavior. So, but this is because of some noise which has been introduced either by instrument, or maybe different topology or topography or illumination condition or atmosphere. So basically we want to remove this particular effect. So for that we need to have some method which works well on the smoothing of such a spectrum. So for that we have a spline. It creates a surface that passes via known points and has the least possible changes in slope at all the points. It creates a smooth surface that passes via known points and has the least possible change in this slope at the point. Spline can be performed using this equation, where x and y coordinates of points can point to be interpolated. And di square is basically a square of the x minus xi plus square of y minus yi. So this can be used to perform or apply this spline of or the smoothing or any given data. There are two different types of interpolation in spline. So first one is regularized and second one is tension spline. Right. Now other one is here you have flexibility to apply this spline with barriers. Now let us understand what is the concept of barrier in interpolation technique. Because if you use either IDW, wait a second. So if I do interpolation for this area, whether this will be correct? No, because this will again get changed to extrapolation. So instead of interpolation, you will end up with the extrapolation. And extrapolation value or extrapolated values are not correct. So here what we will do, we will define this boundary that all the interpolation, whatever method you are going to use it, should run only with within this particular boundary. So that is why this is known as a spline width barrier. So here it says interpolate surface using barrier from points using a minimum curvature spline technique. This barrier are entered as either polygons or polyline feature that I have already explained to you. Now the next one is the trend. So you might have heard about trend analysis. This is just the part of that. It uses a least square regression to fit a surface over the known sample point. Surface is constructed with the motion that the differences between actual and estimated value is all as small as possible. But the surface rarely passes through the input points, which make this technique inexact. So that is why you have a number of techniques, but you need to understand their advantages and disadvantages and what is their utility of that method in your application. Accordingly, you have to decide your technique. So in case of trend, it is good for identifying the coarse scale pattern in data. So in case if you want to perform the coarse resolution data analysis or where you want to perform the interpolation, then this trend method will give you good results. Now we will have the data visualization. So in this lecture, we wind up to spatial function. I hope the concept is clear to you all. We'll back with the part 3 of the GIS part, and we'll study about the data visualization. We'll start with data visualization map. Okay, so this was all about the today's lecture. So I hope you have enjoyed this lecture. If you have any doubt, you can write to me at ankur495@bit.ac.in, or you can just put your any query in the comment box also. So thank you so much. Have a nice day. May God bless you all. Thank you.